one of the things that I, as a non-gamer, can appreciate is folks who do a lot of game casting. Now, my broadcast is typically general technology and things like that. But it can sometimes be difficult to now take our RetroPie or take a PlayStation 4 or take even a computer and record that so that it can be broadcast. We run into this with the Pixel Shadow.
Right.
Mindtest.tv. It's one of our shows here at Category 5, and we do a lot of game capture for the Mindtest video game. But when you install something like Fraps, or when you use screen capture software on the computer that you're actually using to game, it affects your frame rate.
Right.
It requires a lot of hard drive space, a lot of power a lot of times, because you're working with HD video and you're playing the game at the same time as you're trying to record it. It can be brutal. So similarly, we're using a RetroPie tonight, and it's got some games on it, and say we were a broadcaster and we wanted to record our gameplay so that we could later upload it to YouTube, and you see it all the time. How can we do that from something like a RetroPie? It doesn't have enough power to install screen capture software and things like that. We could plug it. We could buy a very expensive capture card. We could plug it into a computer that has enough power to record. But as our guest a couple weeks ago had mentioned, that his computer itself was not powerful enough to... Noah was saying his computer wasn't powerful enough to record directly the gameplay, so he had to buy a separate device. So I started looking around for, hey, how can we kind of utilize this idea here in the studio and make things a lot easier? And that's when I found cat5.tv/AGPTech. And that's spelled AGPTEK. Now, the capture device from AGPTech is a little different from what Noah had. Noah's device still required that you plug it into a computer and it records to that computer's hard drive. But it takes over some of the CPU rendering and things like that, the stuff that takes your computer and slows it down, and puts it on an external device, giving him more power.
Right.
I wanted to take it one step further, and instead of doing that, I wanted to see if there was some way to eliminate the need for a computer altogether. To be able to plug something in to a PlayStation 4 without having to affect your gameplay and just push record. Remember when we had VCRs?
Yes.
And you could just push record anytime you wanted, and you had a recording of what you were doing. So I did find this AGPTech device, and this thing is sweet. It is cheap. Yeah, if you can just lift that bad boy up for me. There we go. And it looks like that. And you didn't know this, but we were actually using this tonight. And what it has is HDMI input from the RetroPie, or it could be anything at all that is supported. If you want to plug it into your game console or your computer's HDMI output, it goes into the HDMI input. Then it has an HDMI output to go to the TV. So we're able to have low latency, zero latency, as far as I can tell, gameplay, so that I can still see it up on the TV even when I'm recording.
Right.
So this device has a USB port, so I can plug in a USB external flash drive or hard drive, or an SD card port. So I've plugged an SD card in here. I've got a Kingston SD card in it's a micro SD inside of a micro SD to SD adapter that they provide with it. And all I have to do in order to start recording whatever is on my screen is just push down on that. And you'll see a little red light come on, and it is literally recording right now. So anything that's going on the screen on the computer. So if let's bring up this shot so that you can see what's going on here, and I'll just, I'll exit this game. Let's turn on the controller first. There we go. I'm going to exit the game, and let's just even look at that. So, I can just navigate the menu system here, and there you have it. So I'm actually recording what you're seeing on the screen there to this device over HDMI.
Okay.
The AGPTech device takes it one step further, Jeff, because if you're really into retro gaming, which I am, you want to be able to record from stuff that's not HDMI. You might have an old NES system. You may have a legitimate old system that you want to plug in for retro gaming. This does something truly unique for the price point. It has a breakout cable.
Nice.
This breakout cable gives us both component and composite. Okay?
Look at that.
So we can record from our standard old style devices that are not HD. It takes it one step further, Jeff.
What?
It then converts it in this device as you're recording to HDMI output.
Wow.
So now I can plug my old console into this,
Yep.
I can press record to record my gameplay and have it up on the big screen TV because it's got HDMI output.
Oh my goodness.
And it converts it all for me. It also has a microphone jack so that you can plug in a microphone if you want to do live voiceover. You can do that. My preference is instead to record to a separate device the audio. I've got a Zoom H4n that I record with the headset mic, and then I add it later so that I can do some editing and things like that. But it also has an audio line output so that you can plug this directly into an audio system or a pair of headphones or something like that. But there you have it. It's the simplest way to do it. I'm only giving you a very, very brief overview of this particular device because there's more to it, but it is very, very simple. It does have a wireless controller that allows you to change between 720p and 1080p recording. It is 30 frames a second. So Noah's had the advantage of it goes up to 60 frames a second.
Right.
For what I do, for anything that I'm going to need this for, I'm very happy with 30 frames a second. So this does something else for us. So now here in the studio, okay, so forgetting about gaming, maybe gaming isn't your thing, what could you use this for? We're looking at a DSLR camera right now. This is a Nikon D5100, and I've hacked the firmware using Nikon Hacker, and I've given us clean HDMI output. But the Nikon cameras and most DSLR cameras are going to give you an option of, do you want to record to SD or do you want to output over HDMI? You can't do both.
Okay.
So everything that I can record from this camera is going to be done on Wirecast, which is great. It does a fantastic job, but I can plug my DSLR camera into the AGP Tech device, then the output from that into Wirecast. I can broadcast in real time just like we do already, but I can push record on this device, and I have an isolated recording of just that camera.
Okay.
So if for some reason something goes wrong and I lose some file, or for example, if I forget to change cameras there and I want to switch it in post-production, I can then edit it and fix that.
Makes sense.
I've got ISO recording inline using this, so I could have one on each camera, and that will give that to me.
Nice.
It could also be used for not just the gaming, but as I say, just a dirt cheap kind of recorder for your camera in broadcast. And I also think about how we'd love to do more in the field recordings, broadcasts, but it requires a very powerful computer. With this, I can record using this device and then have the output from the camera going into a laptop or something like that to do the very low resolution broadcasting, because where it really needs a lot of power is in the record to disk. This will take care of the recording from the camera. I can then post-produce it later.
See, and as you're talking about this, I'm thinking of a very practical and, for me, emotional reason why I would want this. Our oldest, we have like his various videos of him as a baby, and clean version of the birth and all that kind of stuff, but it's on film. So, but the camera does have
video output.
Yeah.
Composite.
And so I still have the tapes, they still work, I view them every once in a while, but it's the paying to convert it that's just
goodness,
friggin' costly.
That's not even what this is intended for. But yeah, you're right. Plug in your camera to this, push record, push play, let it roll, and you're done. It's on an SD card.
And I've just converted oh my goodness, my wife's going to be so happy.
Wow. So check these out. cat5.tv/AGP Tech, TEK. All right. And I am incredibly happy with this purchase. I think it's a fantastic little device, and I'm glad that we carry them. Glad that I found it. So check it out.